Welcome back. In 2015, our next guest became the first Black person elected to federal office in the riding of Whitby, Ontario. It's kicked off what she calls a painfully beautiful experience in politics. In her debut book, Can You Hear Me Now?, readers are given a front seat to her journey. Joining us now is Celina Caesar-Chavannes. Welcome to the show, Celina.
Hello, ladies. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to see you, Celina, and we can't wait to talk to you. And, for a decade, you ran a successful business. Everything was going fine, but then you read a book. We also read this book. The book is called Year of Yes, Shonda Rhimes. We did not, however, do a huge pivot and change our whole lives. You did, though. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, reading Chandra's book, Year of Yes, really made me realize how many opportunities we miss just by letting the world pass us by. And so I thought, well, why don't I have a year of yes? And since I'm a competitive person, I thought, let me just go out there and say yes to a few things that normally I would have said no to, but have an
Mm.
exciting experience along the way.
The first time you ran for office, you lost the election, and you say you were unable to get out of bed for days. And in fact, Dr. Jane Philpott, she diagnosed you with depression. So, what was it like actually having that diagnosis, hearing those words?
Yeah, Cynthia, like I think when we hear those words, it actually makes us realize that we're not broken. That, all this time that we've self-stigmatized or I've self-stigmatized, I'm talking to myself, I'm saying, oh my goodness, you're lazy. What's wrong with you? You can't get
Mm.
up. You should be doing better. You should be out there doing stuff. And then you actually get the diagnosis that tells you you're not well and there are ways to make yourself feel better, and that is a relief. That is almost like a burden is off of my shoulders and I can actually function and do the work that I really wanted to do, that I probably could have done a better job in the past of, but didn't get the diagnosis.
So in 2015, though, you entered federal politics and you won. You eventually became Justin Trudeau's parliamentary secretary. And even though you were doing work with purpose and helping people, you said that something wasn't sitting right. What was that?
Yeah, so right in the first meeting with the Prime Minister in December of 2015, I wanted to make sure that he knew that I didn't want to be named his parliamentary secretary or parliamentary secretary to the Prime Minister and just be a token, just be another
Mm.
individual as the one Black female member of Parliament who was sort of like the bobblehead beside him. I did not want to be
Yeah.
tokenized. In fact, I said, I'm perfectly happy being the member of Parliament for Whitby. I don't need another title. And it just so happened that, and the record shows that over that year, the three times that I did any events for him internationally, and that's what a parliamentary secretary is supposed to do, tag team with their minister, whether it's a prime minister or otherwise, I found that I was going to only events that were related to Black individuals. And I just
Mm.
thought, that's not what I want to do. I want to actually be able to work on policy, work on legislation, work on things that I'm passionate about. I don't want to just sit here because I happen to be Black at a Black event.
I mean, further to that, I mean, the book really shines a light on the invisibility of Black women. Because here you were in Parliament working hand in hand with the Prime Minister of Canada, but you were still feeling largely unseen and unheard. So, what do you think needs to happen for Black women to become more visible in society?
Well, to be honest, we are visible. It's just that sometimes people see through us, and I think
Mm.
that's the worst feeling ever. It's that we are actually right here. The most educated demographic in North America right now is the Black woman. We are making strides in politics, um, in enterprise around the world, and yet we are not benefactors of them of those great strides. And so, what I think needs to happen is that we need to actually have places that are inclusive and that are equitable. We cannot keep saying that we want diversity and having these token hires, having these sort of checkbox hires where we have a Black woman, a Black person check, and she's a woman check, so we get a 2-for-1. That's not what we are. We are our brains and our experiences and our smarts and our intelligence and everything that we bring to that. And that can't be something that is pushed aside because you want the diversity, but you don't
Hmm.
want the inclusion or the equity. And I think that's where we
Mm.
need to strive towards.
Well, in terms of the politics of it, you ended up leaving the Liberal Party. You became an independent, and I can
Yes.
imagine that that was a decision. So can you tell us what the repercussions of that decision were?
Well, if I could just talk to the decision a little bit, I think it's really important as we went through a Me Too movement, a very global, very pronounced movement where, not just in politics, where people around the world were saying women have to be believed when they say that they're harassed, when they say that they're bullied, when they say that they're pressured. And
Hmm.
the decision for me to sit as an independent came around the time of SNC Lavalin. And I was hearing or reading these reports of people saying that Jody Wilson-Raybould, shouldn't be believed, and she's not a team player, and really getting dragged. And I just couldn't sit with that.
Mm.
I didn't think it was fair that we believe women when it's convenient and leave women when it's not convenient. And so sitting as an independent was it was an easy decision for me to make because I was standing in the principles of my values and something what I was not going to waver on as a feminist, as a person who really values that feminist approach. And so sitting as an independent was lonely, but at the same
Mm.
time, I knew I was on the right side of history, and that loneliness, I was okay with being lonely in that decision and sitting in that back corner by myself in the House of Commons, knowing that I was standing on my principles and I could look myself and my kids in the face the next day.
You've since made the decision to leave politics formally, and now that you've put some space between yourself and your political career, what would you say are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from that part of your life?
I think one of the biggest lessons is what we're doing right now, ladies. Like, just really having this sisterhood conversation. And I talk about in the book of doing it with having these conversations with people that I mentor, young women from across the hill. But I really didn't take the time to make these connections with like the Laneys of the world or the Cynthias of the world or these other women who were also lonelies in their own, respective fields, whether it is politics or corporate or television or media. It doesn't matter. Those connections are really important to help us feel less lonely, to validate some of the experiences that we have, to sort of amplify those whispered conversations that we have in our own heads that say, are we going crazy? Did we hear that? Did we see that? Did that really happen to me? And to sort of allow us to stand in our own truth earlier rather than go through the pain of that sort of uncertainty and then get to the point where we leave organizations. And I left a job that I truly did love. And I wish I could have done that a little better.
You talked about mentorship, though, and it has been a huge part of your life. Particularly, you spend time mentoring women with political aspirations. How do you champion the success of young girls? And also, mentorship is a spectrum, and it goes both ways. So, who are your mentors right now?
You know what? I really take time to, one of my mantras is, to whom much is given, much is expected. And so for me to be able to give back, and it really doesn't matter, to be quite honest, Lainey, it is whatever I get young people who say, Celina, will you come and speak? Whenever I get professors or elders who say, Celina, we want you to come and talk or to be a part of an experience, I say yes, because it took so much interaction, so many people doing really good things for me that allowed me
Hmm.
to get here. People who look like me and people who didn't. People who saw things in me that I didn't see in myself, that I was able to now stand in truth and power and use my voice. I didn't get here by myself. And so it's really important for me to hold on to my elders, but also to reach up and to pull up as I climb up.
Celina, it was such a pleasure spending some time with you today. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all your viewers as well. Thank you.
Celina's book, Can You Hear Me Now, is available everywhere. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.